Hey there, everyone! Klaire Fluffle here with a very free installment of the Kirby soundtrack rankings. Literally just saying that since we were talking about Dreamland 3, though. But hey, it's Dreamland 3. I love the soundtrack to pieces, but did you think it would rank this high? What are your predictions for the next game that's going to appear? We've only got 8 left, so let me know what you think, or want, to see. Consider liking the video and subscribing if you enjoy, those really help me out, and maybe become a puptron on my Patreon, in the description, for nifty perks, including 2-day early access to videos like these. Special thanks to my head-patting Fluffle fan puptrons, Biohazard, Furiel, Tyke, Jane, and remember, Miss K says, yeah, I love you guys. So hey, have you heard I love the Super Nintendo? We talked about this yesterday, just swap SNES with DS, but the Super Nintendo was legendary. In terms of music, I struggle to think of hardware that produced better music, for gaming anyway. I've talked about a few of the Super Nintendo soundtracks already, my favorite up to this point being the Japanese-only Superstar Stacker, but Dreamland 3 is truly in a league of its own compared to those, including Superstar Stacker, which, funnily enough, used the same sound font. If you heard the music from that game and loved how it sounded, well, good news! Dreamland 3 sounds like it, but better. Seriously, listen. I didn't even pick a top-tier Dreamland 3 track. That one is pretty middle of the pack. We've got such a good soundtrack today, for real. Looking at Dreamland 3, the art style is obviously the first thing that stands out. I've been hearing more than 0 people say that they don't like it, and, you know, to each their own, but the quality of the art isn't what we're concerned with here. For a style that looks like this, I think it stands to reason that you'd expect a simpler soundtrack. You know, to reflect that crayon, hand-drawn style. The direction it goes isn't that at all. These tracks go in the next best direction. They're atmospheric. Even just looking at World 1 Grassland, if you're calling for something more somber, yeah, Dreamland 3 has you covered. Then, going further for Ripple Field, a beach level, oh, it so has you covered. Cloudy Park is in the clouds, Iceberg in the cold, it doesn't matter. This is a game filled to the brim with incredible atmosphere. And as great as the visuals are, you can't sell an atmosphere fully with looks alone, at least for a game. The music has to do some of the heavy lifting, and Dreamland 3 definitely delivers on that front. That said, I also think this visual style evokes some memories from childhood. Being a kid, drawing whatever with a sketchy style and filling it in with bright, pleasant colors, drawing outside the lines, or at least that's how I was, not that Dreamland 3 is like that. Dreamland 3 obviously looks much better than what you draw as a child, unless you were an insane kid, in which case you better be arting for a living. But having such a vividly, unmistakably child-esque art style, I would expect that high energy to complement that. And, well... Dreamland 3 has the most high-energy bops in series history. Seriously, I adore the energy here. It fits the sound font great, the compositions are all top-notch, and it all comes together to make for a soundtrack you will never forget. The first level being the way that it is tells you everything you need to know. This game that looks like this will have music that you'll never forget. And what's interesting about that is not only is most of the music that plays prior much calmer, but Grassland 2's music is anything but high energy. Don't get me wrong, it is fantastic. It's just a great complementary piece to that first level, and is great for cooling down after an unforgettable first level track. Of course, this is Dreamland 3 we're talking about, so that should all be expected. Like I said before, the game knows exactly when to be high energy and fun, as well as when to be low energy and calm. It has a great sense of how to be atmospheric in both sides, not just one. This lands Dreamland 3 some very impressive variety, and is one of the reasons why it ranks so high for me. I love good variety in my soundtracks, and Dreamland 3 doesn't disappoint. Even in just looking at faster, more exciting stuff, Sand Canyon 1 is an iconic masterpiece, and you never see me comparing it to something super upbeat like Grassland 1. Then right after that, Gourmet Race plays in Sand Canyon 2, which is more comparable to Grassland 1, but still has an entirely different feeling because the compositions themselves are so different. It rules. Then of course Sand Canyon 3 mellows it down comparatively and gives us something you'd expect out of Ripple Field, but it still manages to sound completely distinct despite sharing comparable instruments, and it's so good. So I've been complimenting Dreamland 3's atmosphere a lot throughout this video, but what exactly is the tone that Dreamland 3 sets? And, more specifically, how does the music complement that feeling? Well, it is a Kirby game, so it's going to be approachable, but I think Dreamland 3 does a really good job of what I complimented Mass Attack on yesterday. It tells a story of how things can go from super happy and fun to be more sobering and, for lack of a better term, normal. There are ups and downs to excitement to any adventure, whether that be a video game or real life. Dreamland 3 sure has lots of upbeat tracks and fun levels, but it isn't afraid to take things slower and calm down with it, like with Cloudy Park. I don't think it's better than Mass Attack in that specific regard, mostly since that game actually told a story through its music, but what Dreamland 3 does a lot better than Mass Attack is show, or the audio equivalent of showing anyway, the sugar highs and sobering lows, and how there's nothing wrong with either. Grassland 3, Ripple Field 3, Sand Canyon 1, and Cloudy Park, they're all very different in so many ways, but regardless of whether or not they fall under the sugar high or sobering low, it doesn't matter. They're enjoyable, they're fun, and they all make this point in a game with a crayon art style that evokes childhood memories. It goes deep. Because of everything I've mentioned, there really is nothing that sounds quite like Dreamland 3. Superstar Stacker may have the same sound font, and well, literally it sounds similar, but that game just has really good music, the day-to-day theme, and that's it. Nothing that gives off all of the feelings that I talked about before. It also helps that the actual compositions of Dreamland 3 are more complex. I love KSSS's music, but it's very simple as it was on the Game Boy. Game Boy music being SNESified sounds great, but SNES music being SNESified is a league of its own. I get used to me saying this throughout the rest of the top 10, but there's really nothing like Dreamland 3 music. It just hits different, you know? Although if I had to compare it to Superstar Stacker again, the day-to-day theme in that game was my favorite. And in Dreamland 3, it's day-to-day theme again! Day-to-day sweet! And to be clear, at least personally, I'm not saying that this is a good soundtrack because it gives a sense of anemoia, or nostalgia for something that you've never experienced. I'm not big on nostalgia myself, which is the main reason why I'm making the argument I'm just trying to convince myself with, I guess. But, okay, no, to actually be serious, the music simply reminds you of a simpler time. It doesn't make you necessarily yearn for it or specifically take you back to being a child or something. It just lets you bask in the simplistic fun or calm while making you happy. And I appreciate that. It's nice having a sense of childlike wonder without having my memories be obnoxiously used to try to get me to spend money in capitalist societies, you know? Anyway, listening to the music here and just getting to enjoy it for its simplicity and realize, hey, you know, this is actually kind of brilliant. It felt great. And it's not just the levels. Ripple Field's map theme is one of my favorite tracks in the whole game, just for how good it is. I guess I know how that sounds, but I hope you get my point. And if you don't, well, maybe my guest can explain things better. Take it away, Savvy.
Hello everyone, it's me, Savvy. Wait, this isn't my usual green void. It's, Oh, hi Klaire. If I read the room correctly, this should be our exclusively one-time club that exclusively centers around talking about Kirby's Dream Land 3 whiskey for 3 minutes. Neat. And now you have to say 2, actually, because, you know, the minutes. I thought this was funny, but it's not. Gotcha. Well, Dreamland 3 is such a whimsical game that it couldn't have gotten such a better soundtrack. The sound and feel of each track perfectly couples the hand-drawn and nostalgic feeling of the game. Whether it be with peppy tracks that accompany the feels full of ripples, or the eeriness of the Hyper Zone when you're face to face with the matter most dark. Or even, in a personal favorite of mine, the almost Ghibli movie sounding magical atmosphere that only a track like Sand Canyon 3 could provide. I mean, the game clearly takes some inspiration from the movies with like the anime Keke that is based on Kiki, but I'm getting off track. This soundtrack really hits the spot whenever I listen to it, and that's something that no other compilation of music can achieve for me. The list of songs is full of melancholic melodies, upbeat tunes, and so much more. Dreamland 3's OST has become a mainstay of internet culture thanks to its appearance in countless memes and YTP MVs. Also, wait, isn't the minigame music Shockat's out? Yeah, that's meant to be like kind of cut off. It's a reference to Shockat. Thought that was funny. Thus, earning legendary status. And although it might not be as iconic, it's on par with the levels of usage of Superstar's soundtrack. Well, that's all the time I got. Or well, it's kind of the gimmick of our one-time club, isn't it? Well, thanks again for having me, Klaire, and you'll check out The Savvy Show. I mean, the Founder of Dreams podcast. It has Klaire, me, Nexus, and Sunico VTuber. Please include this.
Similar to games like Battle Royale and Mass Attack, I don't have much in terms of issues with the soundtrack. I used to think that not every level having its own theme, like Canvas Curse or something, was a negative. I don't think that at all anymore. The music is fantastic anyway, so who cares? So instead of focusing on the negative, I'm gonna gush over the tiniest little detail about the soundtrack that I just love. So when Kirby dies, the Dreamland 3 Lost to Life music plays, and we've all heard it. It's great. What you may never have heard, though, is the GUI variation, which is a remix of the Lose a Life sound that plays in your average Kirby game. I love tiny details like that so much. It also helps GUI have more of his own identity, which not only works wonders for the game itself, but it allowed me to talk about GUI, and that makes me happy. And yeah, despite everything, we're only at number 9. The absolute gushing is getting real, which fits since the month is almost over and all. 8 games left, and there's at least one of each left in every single era of Kirby. The classic years, the GBA Wii DS years, the Return to Dreamland years, and the modern years, starting with Forgotten Land. It'll be fun to see which game goes next, but if you have any guesses as to what it's gonna be, again, please let me know. The odds are getting ever closer to being in your favor on whether or not you're gonna be right or wrong, so guess away. And until I see you again, I've been Klaire. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you around. Bye!